real, it's live, and as some comrades say, it's lit, right? lit. Real, live, lit. Right? The revolution is lit.
Uhuru comrades, and welcome to today's Omali Taught Me Sunday Study, live with the leader of the African nation, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Today's study is serving as the kickoff to our annual Black Power 96 Radio Fund Drive. Black Power 96 Radio was founded 6 years ago as a project of the African People's Education and Defense Fund. Our radio station came as a consequence of the foundational work of Uhuru Radio, a decades-old internet radio program that allowed us to reach Africans throughout the world. In the War of Ideas, Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru movement understood that we had to seize all available means of communication, including the airwaves. Black Power 96 FM radio allows us to do just this, along with our print and online journal, our social media work, and publications. And we're having this fund drive in a really important period following the violent raids of the Uhuru movement and Chairman Omali Yeshitela that took place on July 29, 2022. And when they attacked the Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida, they also attacked this radio station, Black Power 96 Radio, and took us off the airwaves. And because they recognized that this is a critical vehicle to be able to reach our community and to explain what is going on in our community, including with these raids. And so one of the first things that they did when they attacked this station is they took us off of air. And this is something that we do in terms of fundraising every single year for Black Power 96, because it's funded by listeners like you. You know, it's a community-based radio station, and it requires donations in order for it to be sustained. And so we do these fund drives every year, calling on you to donate whatever you can to Black Power 96 to keep us on air. And we recognize that there is a lot of efforts, we have to raise resources, even in our Hands Off Uhuru campaign. So we know that this is also part of the attack that was made on our movement to bleed dry these important, critical institutions in our community. And we have to push back against that. We cannot allow this to happen, for them to, drive away the resources that is necessary to keep open this important institution that is something that represents African people saying for ourselves, we will not let anybody tell our stories for us. We will not let anybody define us anymore. We want the ability to define ourselves, to tell our stories, and to really demonstrate what it can be like for African culture workers and contributing back to our struggle and things like this. So this is something that we took on in our own interest. We said we were going to do, and this is a part of the basis for why our movement, our organization was attacked, because we had the audacity to do something like this. So I'm just really calling on everybody in this as part of this Omali Taught Me Sunday study, and for the duration of our February member drive, which starts today all the way to to February 18th, to make your contribution to become a sustaining or supporting member of Black Power 96 Radio, your radio station. And if you didn't know, Omali Taught Me airs on Black Power 96 Radio, 96.3 FM in St. Petersburg, Florida, and streams online through the Black Power 96 mobile app and website. So no other radio station is going to bring you programming like Omali Taught Me. And Black Power 96 Radio, again, is funded 100% through donations from listeners and supportive businesses in our community. You literally power Black Power 96. And on today's episode of the Omali Taught Me, we are conducting an Ask the Chairman, where we take some of your unanswered questions from previous studies and have them posed to and answered by the chairman. You can also pose new questions in this study, which we'll try to take as well. So leave your questions in the chat. And throughout the study, we will be raising funds for the radio station, an important platform that allows us to study and discuss the struggle for African liberation. Our goal is to raise at least $10,000 in donations between now and February 18th. And the Omali Taught Me show goal is $2,000. So this morning, we want to raise $2,000 towards Omali Taught Me. Your donation today supports keeping Black Power 96 Radio on the air, the Black community having our own radio station. We define the programming. We give opportunities to our community to get experience in audio engineering and other aspects of running a radio station. We'll also talk about givebacks for your donations a little later, but I want to call on all of you to help Omali Taught Me reach its show goal by donating now at blackpower96.org/donate, or to Cash App at blackpower96, $ Black Power 96. Also, please like and share this video so that we can win as much support to this study and the radio station as possible. So now, before we go into the Ask the Chairman portion of our program, I would like to open it up to the leader of the African Nation and Worldwide African Revolution, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, to just say a few opening words, Chairman, if you have them for us today, before we get into these incredible questions. Uhuru, Chairman in St. Louis, Missouri.
I want to thank you so very much, Comrade Akile, Director Akile. For the introduction. I want to express my appreciation to everyone who's tuned in to this discussion, this study on today. And I want to make it clear that I'm not some kind of magician or something like that who has the answer to every question. I don't. This is a part of the process of our development collectively. I do offer some leadership and have 60 years or so of experience in dealing continuously with this system and this oppression and exploitation that we experience as African people. So that we'll be talking a lot back and forth. I'm not a techie. Some of the questions revolve around technology stuff that I haven't the slightest idea about. You should have sent that to Apple or somebody else, and you would have got a much better response on some of that. I want to say that this is an extraordinarily important study, a discussion that we have on a regular basis. 96.3, that's simply trying to raise $2,000 on today. And somebody should go ahead and just, make the $2,000 contribution so that we can spend most of this time in discussing these critical issues and not have to continue asking you for resources. The fact is that in the African community in particular, and perhaps this is generally true, people are not accustomed to having this kind of radio. It almost approximates some form of socialism where the people own this process by virtue of keeping it alive. You pay for it, you make a determination of whether or not we are going to be able to have a successful development. And of course, your decisions about supporting it is determined by whether or not you think it's important enough to support it. The fact is that even when people are not necessarily conscious or aware of supporting what is often characterized as corporate media, you do it anyway. and you pay for it. And they keep this media afloat by selling advertisement to people, by creating artificial desires even in the masses of people, so that you go out and buy products and things like that. You spend your money. You keep. This is how these stations keep afloat, so that some major corporate entity buys your news, buys your weather. In fact, you can't even be sure of your weather reports, because these are reports that often contribute to the ability of major, what do they call this, big stores to sell plywood at different times, or based on the emergency, the standing in the rain, wind blown weather person risking life to tell you that it's raining. This is the kind of stuff that happens. So you end up paying for it, and involuntarily. And we're asking now is people should voluntarily pay for this. This is ours. This is yours. This is especially those of the Africans. There's something like, I think they talk a lot about free speech, free assembly. Of course, we're facing charges right now. Our whole movement, this radio station, everything that's associated with it, we're facing charges right now because we dare to speak freely. We dare to assemble. And there's something like, I think, 6 corporations that own more than 90% of all of the media outlets in this country and perhaps the world. So we're in here struggling to communicate to our people and for our people, and to advocate for our people, and to help people get organized, to change the relationship that we have to a very horrible social system. I know that much of what people are preoccupied with now, stuff that's been created to keep us preoccupied. For example, they're looping pictures of a balloon being shot down with missiles. I mean, of course, it's a slow-moving balloon. It's something like 60,000, 65,000 feet in the air, and Joe Biden, is really brave, and he's saying that I told him to shoot it down, right? And so the balloon didn't shoot back. It didn't have a capacity to shoot back. It was just caught up in the jet stream. I mean, when I say caught up, I don't mean that that is unlikely that the Chinese had something up that was capturing information. But the fact is that they do this all the time, not just the Chinese. In fact, they've even had treaties with Russia at different times. Say, we're going to come and spy over, X numbers of times a year over Russia, and you can spy X numbers of years over the United States. There have been treaties like that. And the fact is, they do this on a regular basis. And it just became opportune for them to make a big issue of the balloon. And, even as they're saying it doesn't pose any kind of threat or anything like that, but we're thinking about shooting it down. And because the balloon is there this time, we're going to tell Blinken not to go and meet with the Chinese. They create this false sense, this fear in the minds of the people. And the Chinese are now floating balloons over the United States. And we don't know if they're going to interfere with the balloons that's coming up from the last funeral that we had in the African community, where people release balloons in memory of somebody who was just killed. The fact is, it's a fabrication, and it's something that would keep people preoccupied and scared. The Chinese are floating balloons, and what the hell is next? And it shows Biden is a pretty tough guy, too. And this is approaching the 2024 presidential elections, where polls have been released showing that people were hoping that neither Biden nor Trump would run. The Democrats are saying, we'll settle for him if that's the only thing we got. But we really, I think he's got something like 33% or something like that of the Democrats who want him to run. And you've got a similar situation with the Republicans and Trump. But, like they say, anybody, this is such a democratic country, and anybody can can be the president. And if you've got a few $1 billion, that's all it takes. I mean, the fact is there's nothing that restricts you from becoming president of the United States if you've got several $1 billion to spend. And so ordinary people, you grow up in a housing project, get a few $1 billion, and you can be, run for president, perhaps succeed and become. This is democracy. This is the garbage that's fed every day to the people out there. So I know there's some child right now dodging bullets and hoping that they don't become the next Tamir Rice with their little toy guns in the park, planning to raise $1 billion or more, because with inflation and what have you, the price continues to go up, and so anyway, this is just part of the farce, and I'm just making this point, and then of course there's the situation where we're told that the House of Representatives, perhaps it's gone to the Senate as well, I'm not quite sure on that yet, has voted to condemn socialism. They really detest socialism. And they not only just socialism as an abstract phenomenon, but Mao Zedong and Lenin and Stalin and people like Che Guevara and Ho Chi Minh. I think these are some of the people they mentioned in person as representative of this socialism that they hate. They never hated, by the way, the fact of what the French were doing to the Vietnamese that inspired Ho Chi Minh to have to rise up and overturn that whole social system. They never hated, in fact, they promoted the dictatorship. They created and put Batista over Cuba and turned Cuba into a den of iniquity, to borrow a phrase, where mobsters and, in addition, other mobsters in the United States would control the economy and turn the country into a giant bordello for the purpose of satisfying the horrible and perverted needs of American white people. So that was never the issue. And the number of billions of people who died with Leopold. This was not socialism in Congo. This was the Lumumba was dead. It wasn't socialism that killed Lumumba. It was the aspiration to become a different kind of society and create a society based on shared wealth and things like this that killed Lumumba, and the anti-socialists are the ones that murdered him. But this is important stuff that we're looking at, just like July 29th, the attack on the Uhuru House, the attack on the Uhuru movement, the attack on my home. And this will be extraordinarily distracting for a lot of people and will push some people off point, which is one of the reasons it's important for us to have this discussion. The fact is that it becomes easier for them to make this mockery of the concept of democracy and this mockery of fighting this hated and dreadful socialism, because most of the forces in the world, in the United States and certainly in Europe, who talk about socialism, talk about it as something that is acquired really for white people going through some kind of process that has been incorrectly characterized as a kind of development. And this development in Europe, moving through certain stages, takes Europe to a higher place where socialism is a consequence of resolving contradictions in European society. But what gets left out of the whole thing is that the European society itself was given birth to by colonialism. There was no such thing as a European society. There was no such thing as even European nations. It was the fact that little raggedy bass-ackwards Portugal attacked Africa some 600 years ago and began the process of stealing our resources and enslaving human beings and making us work for nothing and sending all these resources into Portugal. And then and this process of, this is where you get Prince Henry the Navigator from Portugal. And they began to send ships and stuff like that out into the rest of the world. And Europe began to see, hey, there's a good racket here. I say Europe, but even that's a misnomer, because there was no Europe. This was the part of the process of becoming Europe, of becoming a consolidated national kind of consciousness. And so they go out throughout the world. They slaughter millions and millions of people. We don't even know how many people of the Americas, the indigenous people who don't even get spoken of. That's why this Congress, that whose buildings and whose power is resting on the graves of the indigenous peoples from whom this land was stolen. And that they can have this discussion in Washington, D.C., that was laid out in the labor that created it, built it, African people, and they can talk about being opposed to socialism because socialism has killed all these people. And when the discussion they're having is on the graves of all the people that they killed, to be able to have that discussion in Washington, D.C., in a city that's named for a white man who was a rapist and who was, among other things, a owner of black people. So it's just so much, it's so farcical, this whole process. But the thing is that the weakness of the so-called left is that they've accepted the general narrative about how progress has been made. And their history, their process begins with as a consequence of my enslavement. So they don't see me. They don't see the indigenous people. They don't see all the people who've been raped and robbed. They can say Nicaragua without asking, how the hell did this happen? They can say Cuba without saying, how the hell did this happen? They can say Haiti and all these other places. And they can say America without saying, how the hell did this happen? And so the fact is that they talk about socialism from a perspective of someone who has conquered and murdered people all around the world and what will become the best society they can have. This is the white left as well, because we're talking about a superstructure, the ideas and thoughts and things like that, the customs that come about as a consequence of how society gets its resources. And when I say resources, I mean how it gets its life, what it takes to afford to live. And what I must insist is when I say society here, I am not talking about America or France. I'm saying that a whole new social order came into existence with the colonial mode of production. It was no longer a feudalism that was based in some city-state in the territory now known as Europe. It's no longer that. The fact is the world has been hitched up together into this common relationship that is a colonial mode of production that is characterized by parasitism, by this tiny sector of the human population having captured at gunpoint enslaved people and brought them into a relationship of theft. And so they get built at the expense of the rest of us. That's the kind of social system that we're looking at. That is a mode of production that we are talking about. So it is not as some would have it, a French thing or a German thing. We are talking about a world that's hooked up together. When we talk about society in this sense, we're talking about all the ideas in this society. It is now, it is no longer, again, as we said, the Celts who are having a discussion among themselves or something to that effect. It's a whole new world that has been hitched together and that has a common vision, more or less, that stems from a mode of production and a thought process and institutions that are created to create this thought process and guns and weapons and things like that to maintain this relationship. So you got people who call themselves communists and Marxists, and they cannot fight for socialism because the essential question for everybody is the mode of production, which is a colonial mode of production, which presupposes the absolute need to destroy the pedestal upon which the whole European society rests, and that it cannot exist without. So you have European smart people, white smart people, who can talk about the Black movement, and then over here the socialist movement, or the white movement, or the environmental movement, or the white women's movement, the homosexual movement, the workers' movement, etc., and see them as all separate entities that's sort of out there, and which occasionally, if we have a meeting or something to that effect, we can agree upon certain kinds of relationships. But the fact is, those relationships exist whether you agree upon them or not. And that it connects the whole world into a single process. This is the society that we are talking about. This is the society that comes to various kinds of conclusion through, in part, through this relationship of parasitism that feeds and clothes and houses and creates and promises a future for white people and their children that cause disaster and crisis and things like that in the white world, when that future is dimmed by the struggle of people to take back their resources, which is the first requirement, prerequisite for real socialism to be brought into the world. This is the weakness, and this is why the African People's Socialist Party, we're not talking about we are the leader of the Black liberation movement. We are the leader of the struggle for socialism, for communism in the world in the real sense of the word. We don't accept this notion that there's a white, we can talk about a division of labor under the leadership of the African working class, under the leadership of the colonized people, the vast majority of the people of the world, that would have white people, colonizers who want to break free and separate themselves as colonialists and refuse to be colonialists, even though they are part of the colonized. When I say colonialists, I'm talking about active and conscious participants in maintaining the colonial domination, the parasitic domination of other peoples around the world. I said a lot, didn't I? So these are some of the things that we're looking at. It's creating a frenzy. And more people, we've been seeing this happen for a while now, are talking about fascism on the horizon. I know I'm speaking to some of the questions that's even left over that we would be talking about. That fascism is on the horizon. And, you know, because of struggles that the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement have made, especially with some African intellectuals, about how crazy it is to talk about fascism, like, you know, like what the hell we're talking about fascism that we see arising with Mussolini and Franco in Spain and Hitler and Germany. But the reality is that the conditions of African people precedes fascism by hundreds of years. That our oppression, our exploitation is worse than anything that the fascists did. I've seen something like maybe 1 billion people in India killed by British colonialism. And we don't know how many millions and scores and hundreds of millions of African people have died as a consequence of what happened to us. And so this whole notion that when contradictions sharpen to such extent that the social fabric of the colonizer is now being challenged and stretched, and the rights that the colonizers have are being lost on a daily basis, and that they're being told they can't fight for socialism, etc. Surely fascism is here. This is what the kind of message that we get. And so then the Africans and other colonized people are mobilized to fight against fascism, fight against this contradiction that is tearing away the freedoms of the colonizers that came about as a consequence of taking freedom from those of us who are colonized. Wouldn't be such a thing as freedom, democracy, as it's being characterized in this modern era without slavery and colonialism. This is the thing that brought the freedom. This is the thing that brought the bourgeois democracy. It was no bourgeoisie. How the hell going to be a bourgeois democracy? The thing that brought it into existence was colonialism. And when I say colonialism, I'm talking about what people refer to as slavery. I'm talking about what happened to the indigenous people in this country. I'm talking about how the whole world was laid at the feet of what became Europe. And this is the foundation for all the rights and freedoms that they have. So to get me involved in the struggle for fighting for the rights that are being lost by white people because they are experiencing what they characterize as fascism, when daily life for the colonized is something worse than anything that they've ever experienced when they're facing fascism. But what we're looking at, of course, is a moment in time when some aspects of the normal conditions of existence of Africans and colonized people begin to intrude into the lives of the colonizers. This is where the crisis comes. Now there's a crisis, not because Malcolm X has been killed, not because Fred Hampton was killed, not because more than 30 members of the Black Panther Party was killed within a very limited, short period of time, not because they raid our communities, not because there are roadblocks set up all over Africa everywhere. You cannot move under the system that they have put in place, because now something is happening to the colonizers, the white people. And so what we are saying is we do believe that there's a crisis here, and that it is a threat and attack on the rights of all the people. But the fact is that the way we get out of it is not fighting for the rights of white people and the struggle of fighting against fascism. We fight against colonialism that is the foundation for the entire thing. That's the point that we want to make. We don't say that something nasty doesn't happen, not happening right now. What we're saying is that this nastiness is now intruding into the spaces of that has been characterized as the democratic spaces of the colonizer. And so this is where we get this whole sense of urgency. So was that the brief comment that you wanted me to make, Comrade Akile?
Yes, Chairman, you said everything that needed to be said, and really opened the door for the discussion that we're going to have today with some of these unanswered questions. But I really appreciate you taking this on, because I was going to raise the question myself, especially around this, the whole question of socialism as it relates to what you brought up.
Let me say this about socialism, because I think it's really important. Socialism, by the way, which is relatively new concept in terms of the objectives of the Marxist movement, the communist movement. It was not to create socialism, but it was to create communism, which is to say, and that's a frightening thing. Don't say communism, because you'll be nuked. And you may very well be nuked. There's no telling what the hell these people would do, because they're talking about tremendous amount of wealth concentrated in this mode of production, that where you have the whole world engaged in social production. And how does stuff get to Bezos or whatever the hell his name is, and the rest of them? Where does all this wealth come from? Talking about you got trillionaires. Where the hell does it come from? And the fact is, what you have is socialized production. People all over the world are engaged in production, growing food, building houses. And it's reached a point now where you go into a mall that's owned by Sam Walton, or to a store owned by Sam Walton, a Walmart or a Sam's Club or something like that, and you go and you see that the thing that you want to purchase was created in Indonesia. Or you can buy, I was surprised, I went to a shop the other day and bought a bag of peaches. And this is a place where the windshield is sometimes 30 below, etc. Peaches? But because you can get it any time now, because people all around the world are engaged in this collective process, socialized production. People everywhere are engaged. You might not even know the people who made your pants. You don't see them, but people are involved in this process all around the world. This is socialized production. Just think about this, socialized production. But you have private ownership of the means of production. So it's not like there's some group of individual tailors who are making pants and stuff like that, and you go and buy from them. No. In fact, the tailor doesn't even own the machine in many instances. The machine is owned, the means of producing that owned by some major entity, some major corporation, whatever. They own and control the means of production. And so the struggle is to a world where there is no exploitation, where you have socialized production, and then you have socialized ownership of the means of production. We created this together, collectively, people all over. Why the hell does this person here, this cretin, own and control everything? Now the people who make the cars can't afford to buy the damn car. This is what we're talking about when we look at a certain kind of social system, because the people who they refer to as capitalists own the mean of production. They own the mean of production, and they determine whether those who produce, who are socialized, engaged in socialized production, will be able to eat what it is they grew. People on what they used to refer to, and sometimes behind closed doors probably still do, banana republics. You know, they're cutting bananas. They cut the bananas when they're green, can't be eaten, and throw them on ships, refrigerated ships. So they end up at Sam Walton's joint, Walmart or Sam's Club or some other place in your local supermarket. And they are useless to the people who actually grew the food and made the food. This is the ridiculous kind of social system that we're looking at, and that the Congress is trying to protect with its vote in opposition to socialism. And of course, it is assisted by that because the same forces who own the means of production are the ones who own the means of communication, producing ideas and distributing ideas. Your radio stations, your television stations, your newspapers, those that continue to exist, your social media. That's why you got to give the $2,000. Give the $2,000 right now for this show to 96.3, where you've got people who are just working for the masses, and this is the people's radio station, and this is the fight back against them. You are consciously engaged in struggle against them. You want to fight back against the guy who owns and shadow bans you on Facebook, then let's put the resources right here, 96.3. That's how you fight back. If you really, you can send letters if you want to, but you fight back by creating a viable entity that can contend with it. Let me just say this and shut up around this issue, because we have the ability to do it, and I've seen it happen before. I've seen this situation, how the crisis for the newspapers in this country started much earlier than the social media. It started with what was characterized as alternative media that people began to produce. When the Nation of Islam, the original Nation of Islam, was putting 1 million newspapers a week on the streets. When the Black Panther Party the original Black Panther Party was putting 250,000 newspapers a week on the streets throughout this country. When Jomo, the one that initiated the organization precursor to the party, were putting thousands of Brenningsville newspapers throughout the streets. And then we shaped and then when even white leftists who characterized what they were doing as alternative media. I say leftists, but that's a pretty inaccurate characterization. Some of the people may or may not have characterized themselves as leftists. They were hippies. They were into all kinds of things, but it made it necessary for the colonial media to change even how they looked. They couldn't look the same way anymore. You saw them borrowing the styles that came from what they call alternative media, from the Black Panther Party, from Muhammad Speaks, from the Brenningsville. They had to borrow this because we had begun to penetrate much of what was considered, their market and what have you. So they had to change, and they did change. And we're at a place now where the monopoly that they have can be broken by the participation of the people. You build 96.3. You give the $2,000. How much? We say we kind of raise $10,000 over a certain period of time. Give the $10,000, and so that we can spend the kind of time that we need to spend explaining and discussing some of these issues and bringing magnificent liberated culture, music, song, and the rest of that. Give the money now. And that's the way you contend with them. You don't have to just run around calling them liars. What we do is create a capacity to tell the truth and distribute the truth among the people. And they will find themselves having to compete with us and contend with us, as opposed to this perpetual treadmill that we find ourselves on, trying to catch up and correct their stance. Uhuru, Comrade Director.
Uhuru, Chairman. I just want to really appreciate this incredible overview. I don't think it could have been opened up any better way, honestly. And I want to just say that before we even got to our first question, we've already raised $1,160. So Uhuru. I'm going to be shouting out you comrades in just a moment. Really want to appreciate everybody who's donated up to now. And if you need to know how to donate, you can go to blackpower96.org/donate. Our Cash App is $BlackPower96, or you can mail a check to Black Power 96 at 1245 18th Avenue South, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33705. And that information is featured on the screen right now. So, Chairman, we are going to look at some of these unanswered questions, most of which you've just covered in this overview. But I think there's some that we can definitely get to that help to expound upon points that you've already made. I want to read this comment quickly, too, from Robert Brown. Facebook says, my wife is from Kenya. Listening to her parents and grandparents speak of living under colonialism has been an education for me, not to mention the coffee farmers and tea growers who work so hard, but at the end earn so little. Free the land. So, Uhuru, Comrade Robert.
Let me say to Comrade Robert Brown, what he's speaking of is normal for our conditions of existence as a people. And, people go to wars because of this. And you have the British, these genteel, tea-sipping, I'm trying to think of a word that collectively conveys the term of assassins. This is what they are. They're the ones who have defined for the world what civility is, what it is to be civil, and they're so soft-spoken when they're killing you. Who was that killing me softly with your, and it's so brutish. Like you take Kenya, the Kenyan Land Freedom Army, most magnificent resistance that's ever happened on earth. These people went up against the British Empire. And you got to remember, these were not just white people in Kenya that we're talking about. We're talking about the empire that at that time was the largest empire that had ever existed on the planet Earth. And these Africans in Kenya, who were tied more or less to the land, they were fighting for the land. And they held the British Empire to a standstill for years. And the British killed at least 300,000 people, Comrade Robert, there. And I was looking at some testimony because they finally got forced the government in England. I'm trying to remember, this may have been from Namibia, or it could have been Kenya, but they forced the government to a trial about the murder, the genocide. Much of what we know as counterinsurgency, much of that was developed in Kenya, killing Black people in Kenya. The attack that they made on us on Redbud on July 29th, this stuff was perfected in places, every place they had enslaved us. I read this article and this testimony about this African woman who had been captured, who had been held because they were torturing Africans all over the place. This was Kenya. And she talked about how the British soldiers held her down. and one stood on one leg with the boot, and the other leg. They had her splayed out, holding her down. And they took a bottle of scalding water, and they inserted it into her vagina and kicked it. You understand? Kicked the bottle into her vagina. This is the genteel British that now criticizes people for oppressing women, like in Ukraine, or no, like in what's the last place in Iraq, or some other place like that. This is what they did. They actually took crushed glass. They took banana leaves and shoved them into the vaginas of women and the anuses of men. They took snakes and did the same thing. This is the British. And they're telling us about how many people socialism killed. And let me just tell you this, that the thing about Mau Mau, who Kenyan Land Freedom Army, who raised up the slogan, demand Uhuru. This is the origin of Uhuru. This was an incredible force that fought them tit for tat in a very serious kind of way. And one thing about the Mau Mau is that their sellouts was just as scared of them as the British colonizers. A neo-colonial colonizer stood as much chance of dying, and sometimes a better chance of dying, than the colonizer, because they lived closer, and they were the ones with the hands-on repression and oppression, etc. Send the $2,000 and the $10,000 if you got it. And at some juncture here, that comment Akita is going to tell you about all the wonderful things that you get in addition to access to this station and the information that we have. But that's it, Robert. And I'm sure that no matter what she told you, your relatives or in-laws, it did not convey the totality of what happened. That Kenya was this place where the genteel British, they actually went for all kinds of sexual escapades and perversions and stuff like that, dope. Everything they wanted to do, they couldn't do in England or wouldn't do in England because it was not proper. They did it in Kenya. And so I'm glad that your in-laws were able to convey some of that to you. But I guarantee you that the depth of what happened, and that's not because not just because she doesn't know, but because we have a tendency as Africans to black out some of that stuff. If you live in this country and have old enough to have had grandparents and great grandparents, there's that horrible stuff that happened to them, black, and we don't even talk about it. And we don't want to, they black this stuff out. They don't want to live through this anymore. That's how horrid this thing is, that they are using fighter jets to shoot down balloons to defend. This is a horrid kind of social system, and we know it better than anybody else. And we cannot retreat from recognition and understanding of this, even with the threat of attacking our homes like they have attacked our homes. Because the fact is that most of the people who they kill are not involved in the movement. Most of the people who they're murdering throughout this country and throughout the world are not because they are involved in struggle trying to overturn the system. It's because they are colonized. And, look at Mike Brown. He's just a guy walking down the street, being a tough guy in his own community and stuff, the way we do in our communities. Look at George Floyd. He wasn't a member of the party or the Uhuru movement. You don't have to be. And guess what? And the reason people didn't rise up and do something horrible to the pigs who killed them is because of the terror that's a part of our life all the time, because they had armies there to protect the murderers. Anyway, comment, Robert, it's colonialism that we're talking about. And I'm just reminding us, because we have conversations all the time. We have conversations sometimes with our white friends who really don't like what's happening to us. But most instances, they equate their experiences with what's happening to us. They are so far off. They haven't the slightest idea. I hear, white people talking about how I used to see this commercial all the time, and about I got mine the old-fashioned way. I worked for it. You don't even know what work is. You understand? That's what I want. You don't know what work is. How the hell are you going to call what you do work on the one hand and call what happens to Africans and Asians and people everywhere who have to slave for you work too? Both of them can't be work. You're doing something else. Don't call it work. If you're going to call what we're doing as a people work also. We have to be able to define for ourselves. And even if we like somebody else, we can't help them by acting like we are sharing the same experience, because we're not. We can't help them. And there's a tendency for people to do that. You like somebody, you sort of act like you are the same, that you're sharing the same experience. You learn to talk like them and walk like them because you want this kind of acceptance, because you like them. Tell the truth. And tell the truth and free them. Free them from fantasy, free them from the moral degradation that has come about as a consequence of being colonizers and owners and sellers of human beings and dominating the rest of the world. Freedom. So tell them the truth. Comrade, I know that was just one thing that we're dealing with, Comrade.
Uhuru, yes, Chairman. Just very dynamic. And that's actually going to bring me to our first question, which is coming from, it was a webinar that we did on George Floyd in 2022. And the question came from Comrade Johan Bedingfield. And he asked, Uhuru, what can white people do to end our parasitic relationship to African and other colonized people? And what does reparations look like? So this is his question, Chairman, just kind of piggybacking off of what it is you just stated.
Thank you, Comrade Johan. I just want to say that's a really important question. And it takes me back to the something that I raised early on in this discussion. This notion of white people having separate lives from the rest of us. And that's not true. White people have affixed themselves to the body of humanity. I've heard of people sometimes having tumors that suck all the resources and blood from the body that they're attached to, and they get bigger and bigger and deplete the capacity and strength. Sometimes there's tumors in their stomachs that grow. Sometimes I've heard of people, of women being pregnant with what should be twins, but the thing is just eating. One thing is living at the expense of the other. The fact is that there is no separate thing here. It's a single relationship. When we talk about the colonial mode of production, we're not talking about two relationships. We're talking about a single relationship. We're talking about this unity of opposites. That's what characterizes dialectics. You can't have one without the other. You can't have colonialism without a colonizer. That's a single relationship, even though we call this person a colonizer and this is a colonized. We're looking at a mode of production that has enveloped, different forces into it. And so what white people can do is work with the colonized, who are the primary victims in this relationship, and work with the colonized. Turn your back on the colonizer, as you have done, Comrade Johan. And one of the persons I appreciate perhaps more than most, for the stance that you've taken in terms of contributing to life of the colonized by limiting the life capacity of the colonizers that require the theft of life and resources from those of us who are colonized. And I hope that wasn't, like a complicated statement that I just made, but that's part of what you have to do. And you have to deny every aspect. That's the thing that makes the reparations work that we do important. Because there's this situation where people can only understand reparations, and we've done studies ourselves. In fact, initiated the first investigation that attempted to quantify the amount of value that was stolen from African people, just in terms of labor alone. But the fact is that we are talking about a single relationship with a unity of opposites. And the reparations work, part of what's significant is because we're not talking about just what the government owes us or what the corporations owe us. And we are opening a door for the colonizers, all of whom live at the expense of the colonized, to rectify your relationship, to rectify a relationship with those who are colonized by returning those resources, but not just return them and saying, here, go get your teeth fixed. I was at a place once and somebody brought me a vegan hamburger and said, you don't have to pay for reparations. I said, I'll be damned. Oh, no. How much this thing costs, right? Because the thing is that that white people have been given this opportunity to escape a definition of their reality and to hide from this relationship and to enjoy the relationship, to enjoy the oppression, exploitation of peoples around them, to enjoy it because gasoline is cheap as long as we can control what they call the Middle East. And plus, I'm white. Yeah. What the hell? I'm white. And if this thing is gone, who the hell am I? If I am not measured by the contemptible position that we have imposed on Black people and Mexicans, who the hell am I? And this is a confrontation, a contradiction that they have to deal with. So there's so much value here. But we've created a situation where white people, and I'm saying white people because that's how the colonizer has defined himself as white, as distinguished from the rest of us, right? And so we have opened the door so that the colonizer, white people, ordinary folk who don't like this relationship, and I hear it all the time, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. Well, damn it, make not liking it do something other than voting for Obama. Or somehow thinking you're doing us a favor when you vote for Joe Biden, as the one who put all these cops in the streets that kill so many Black people on a regular basis. The one who presides over a government that would have you thinking that something positive is happening because they're shooting down empty balloons in this country while they're shooting down Black people throughout the country and other peoples around the world. This is what you have an opportunity to turn your backs on that. And reparations are not just some paltry thing like some people get together and like Jimmy Carter's thing and they go and build a house for somebody poor. Oh, wow, that's really helpful, Jimmy. You understand? No. The thing is that we want our capacity to build our own houses. We want our resources that went to building your house. You understand? And so we have opened up this door, this movement, so that we don't wait for the government. In fact, when you pay reparations, you're fighting against the government. Yeah. When you pay reparations, you're fighting against the corporations. When you pay reparations, you're fighting for the socialism that they hate so much, and they will discuss it in the Congress of the United States. That's what we're talking about. So I think I dealt with Uhuru.
And you can also tune into Reparations in Action, White Lies Shattered on Black Power 96 Radio, which, really goes in depth and is hosted by Chairwoman Penny Hess of the African People's Solidarity Committee, Comrade Jesse Neville, the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and Comrade Jamie Simpson, member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement as well. And this is a show that talks about the same ideas that the chairman has put forward just now in a radio show every week on Black Power 96 Radio. Again, a place you cannot find programming like this on any other radio station. So this is why you have to donate to blackpower96.org/donate. And Chairman, before we continue on with the questions, I do want to make sure that we recognize all of the donors already who have submitted a contribution to help us towards our $2,000 goal.
We haven't raised the 2,000 yet?
Oh, we're almost there, Chairman. We're almost there, Chairman. But yes, go ahead. You hear it. You hear it. Drop that 2,000 right now. Just do it. Just let's, and we only have 705. Oh, Yes, Chairman.
You're going to tell them all the wonderful stuff that they're going to be getting
Yes.
to, right?
Yep,
Okay.
about to tell them
Yeah.
the wonderful things they're going to get. Yes. So I just want to first say that we've raised $1,295 of our $2,000 show goal today. So hooray, comrades. We only have $705 left to raise, and we've just approached the start of our last hour for the show today. So I know we have $705 among us. One of you has it, can drop bank right now to blackpower96.org/donate. But I want to give a special shout out to comrades Penny in St. Louis with a $50 donation, who says, saluting Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Director Akile, in the amazing Black Power 96 FM. Want to thank also Robin in Florida with $25 donation. I want to salute, I think I know who this is, Comrade Robin in St. Pete. And then we have also Comrade Kwame in Richmond, Virginia with a $20 donation, says revolutionary greetings, Hotep Uhuru. We also have Comrade Leah in Minneapolis with $100, who says, proud to support Black Power 96. Uhuru, Comrade Leah. We also have shout out to our economic institutions, Uhuru Furniture Oakland with a $100 donation, says saluting the amazing APEDF institution of Black Power 96. These are our sister institutions right here. Thank you so much, Uhuru Furniture Oakland. We also have Comrade Stephanie in Oakland with $25. Uhuru, Comrade Stephanie. A shout out again to another one of our economic institution, Uhuru Foods and Pies in St. Petersburg, Florida, with $100. Says Uhuru Foods and Pies salutes Chairman Omali Yeshitela, APSP, and Black Power 96, building an independent African economy, media, and world. Uhuru. We also have Comrade Lisa in Minneapolis with $100. Uhuru, Comrade Lisa. Uhuru to Comrade Janice in St. Petersburg with $100 donation, saying supporting the voice of the African Revolution. Uhuru, Comrade Janice. We also have a new sustainer, Comrade Kitty in St. Louis. So Uhuru, Comrade, thank you for becoming a sustaining member of Black Power 96 Sustainers. Pay a monthly donation to keep the station on air. So thank you, Comrade Kitty. We also have Uhuru Furniture Philadelphia with $100, Uhuru Foods and Pies and Oakland with $100. Wow, the economic institutions really showing out today. We just want to salute these comrades, and to Comrade Deputy Chair Ona Zanae Yeshitela, who leads our economic work. Thank you so much. We have Comrade Maureen in Oakland with a $100 donation. We have Comrade Mwezi, Chair Mwezi of the Hands Off Uhuru campaign in San Diego, $25 donation. Proud to be a monthly sustainer for Black Power 96 Radio. Forward to a successful 2023 fund drive. Keep BP96 on the air and growing. Right on, Comrade Mwezi. We also have Comrade Hallie in St. Louis. Uhuru, Comrade Hallie with $10 says, I'm proud to support this independent radio station that brings such a wide variety of music and programs. Uhuru. We also have Comrade Robert in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, who gave $25 today and gave a quote, every single thing that touches your life, religious, socially, and politically, must be an instrument of your liberation, or you must throw it into the ash can of history. And that was John Henrik Clark. So thank you, Comrade Robert, with your $25 donation. We also have Comrade Rage in St. Louis with $50. Uhuru, Comrade Rage. We have Brother Wasset with a $25 donation, says Uhuru from Brother Wasset. Thank you so much, Comrade. We also have Jesse in St. Louis with $20. Thank you, Comrade Jesse. And Sandy, Washington State, with $100 and says, supporting the independent radio voice of the African Revolution, Reparations Now. Comrades, and while I was shouting everybody out, the donations kept coming in. So we're actually now only $585 away from our $2,000 goal. Only $585 remaining. So why don't we talk about what you can expect for those who have donated and those who are waiting to press their donations into the website right now, what you will get when you become a sustainer supporting member to Black Power 96. So first and foremost, special thank yous for supporting Black Power 96 Radio. Everyone who donates will get one of these special limited edition Black Power 96 magnets. And this is happening in the month of February. And we'll talk about this a little bit later. We're having a concert to cap the fund drive called For the Love of Black Power. So this is our theme for the February member fund drive for the love of Black Power. And so you can get these special edition magnets when you become a donor today at any level. You get one of these magnets. If you've given $100 or you give $100 today or become a monthly sustainer at any level, and we want to thank you by sending a to-do list notepad that includes the Black Power 96 logo and a reminder to tune in to your favorite radio station. Let me tell you, comrades, I go through these and I know there are so many people who will go through these to-do lists. I mean, have them on you, on your person, because there is always some action items, always something that we have to be doing to forward, this struggle. And so this to-do list, if you've given $100 already, if you give $100 today, or become a monthly sustainer at any of our levels, you get this to-do list notepad plus that magnet. So comrades, please do not be caught slipping without your to-do list. Make sure you become a sustainer or give $100 today. If you are able to give $300 or more today, or start a monthly contribution of $25 a month or more, we want to thank you with a Black Power 96 radio mobile phone stand, so your phone won't tip or slide as you're listening to Black Power 96 mobile app. And also, comrades, I want to state that wherever it is that you're located right now, you can go to your Google Play Store or your Apple App Store, download the Black Power 96 radio mobile app, and tune into us. So I have comrades in Portland, Oregon, Evanston West, Occupy Azania, Battle Creek, Michigan, Atlanta, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, Fort Myers, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida, Richmond, Virginia, Gainesville, Florida, Frederick, Maryland, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Huntsville, Alabama, Houston, Texas, Fresno, California, Collegeville, Pennsylvania, Largo, Florida, Bermuda, Marion County, Georgia, Boston, Massachusetts, Greenville, South Carolina, and Grenada, West Indies. Comrades, you can be listening to Black Power 96 radio in all of those locations. Just download the Black Power 96 mobile app today. So give $300 today or more, or become a new $25 a month sustainer. You will get this mobile phone stand, you'll get that to-do list, and you'll get that special edition magnet. And before we wrap up this section to show you what it is that you'll receive when you become a supporting or sustaining member of Black Power 96 Radio, we also want to shout out our sustainers. Again, these are comrades who give monthly by setting up automatic donations to Black Power 96. We encourage anyone who is not already a monthly sustainer to consider giving that kind of consistent, reliable support to the station, whether it's $5, $10, or $25 or more a month. And these comrades, our sustainers, our chairman, Omali Yeshitela himself, is a Black Power 96 sustainer. We also have Comrade Jamal in St. Louis, Melinda in Toronto, Canada, Renee in Philadelphia, Tracy in Rialto, California, Elikia in Florida, Robert in St. Petersburg, Florida, Bakri in Oakland, Mwezi in San Diego, Matsamela in San Diego, Konji in St. Petersburg, Grady in St. Louis, King in Philadelphia, Fofi in St. Louis, Anonymous Sustainer in Alabama, Lisa in Minneapolis, Allison in Philadelphia, Diane in Gainesville, Anne in Ecuador, and Janice in St. Petersburg, Florida. And we want to shout out all of our supporting members as well. There are too many to name. So if you did not hear your name mentioned, we just want you to know that we appreciate every contribution they make. They all make a difference. So thank you, comrades, so much for those who have donated already. Again, we are at $585 remaining to our goal. If you have $585, go ahead and drop that donation to blackpower96.org/donate, or Cash App $blackpower96. Or you can also mail a check to Black Power 96, 1245 18th Avenue South, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33705. And if you want to make a donation, but you're not able to do it today, but you want to contribute to the Omali Taught Me Show goal, make sure that you indicate that in the chat section. Put your pledge amount. You can pledge this amount to Black Power 96, and we will follow up with you to make sure that that donation comes through. So this is also an option for you. Or you can go to the website and donate and indicate Omali Taught Me, so we know that it's going towards this $2,000 show goal. But we still have some time left to raise $585 $85 of our $2,000 goal. And so while this is happening, we're going to get back into some more questions with the chairman. So Uhuru, Chairman, another unanswered question that we have came from Comrade Paul in actually our last Hands Off Uhuru mass meeting. And this, I think, is also in line with what it is that we've been discussing up today. Says the white left brags about being, quote unquote, democratic socialists. That is different from other socialists. So can you put that to rest? This is what Comrade Paul is asking.
Uhuru, thank you. I just want to say the whole concept of democratic socialism and democratic socialism in many ways is something that responds to what the U.S. Congress, I understand, just did in terms of condemning socialism and what have you. It's a means of saying that, yeah, we're socialists too, but we're not like them other socialists. You understand? We're not, and Lenin made a really important advance in this issue of socialism when he talks about that socialism being the dictatorship of the proletariat. He said dictatorship. What the hell do you mean? And because that's opposed to what people like to refer to as the hidden dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. Of course, for colonized people, the dictatorship is never hidden. It's quite visible to us all the time. But that's why when colonized people say these horrible things are happening to us, and in America, as an example, then white people say, no, they must have done something. I mean, it can't happen like that because they have a different relationship to even the state. And colonialism, the dictatorship is always, 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 always visible. And that's why we get gunned down. And a problem, of course, with the colonizer, it has been since the advent of the capitalist social system, is that capitalism was born as a response. And this is really important to remember. We're talking about socialism versus capitalism, et cetera. Capitalism was born as a part of a process of struggle in Europe against the feudal mode of production, where the nobility just dominated everything. People had no rights, and so people were fighting for freedom. But this freedom came, again, as we've said earlier, at the expense of slavery and colonialism, et cetera. So you have a mode of production that where freedom is coming to Europe. It's definitely free as compared to being a serf and being a peasant tied to the land with no rights, and with the priest being able to sleep with your wife because to prove that she's virginal, and all of this as a normal function of things, and where you had, this kind of relationship. And in fact, if you remember, the story that's told, the narrative we get about the United States is that people were coming to the United States for religious freedom and all this other kind of stuff. They were fighting, they were looking for freedom. And so let's go out and kill some indigenous people and capture some people, enslave them and what have you. The fact is that freedom came, democracy came for Europe and Europeans at the expense of anything that of democracy that had been enjoyed, or whatever kinds of systems that prevail for colonizing other people. It's really important to recognize that, because again, people get born into a situation and they have the impression it's always been like this. It hasn't always been like this. White people have not always dominated the world and have not always defined what the world is. Whether they call themselves communist, socialist, fascist, what have it, hasn't been the case. So this thing that we talk about in terms of democratic socialism. When Lenin led this revolutionary movement, when he was a leader of this movement, and he talked about the dictatorship of the proletariat, and this was when they began to talk about socialism. Because the fact is that socialism was not a mode of production according to the Marxists. It was the Marxists would take us from primitive communism, which is what everybody else had, and then they as a mode of production, and then slavery as a mode of production, and then feudalism as a mode of production, which is where Europe was, or what we call Europe was before the advent of colonialism. And then they would characterize capitalism as a mode of production, and then communism as a mode of production. But the problem is that they had to solve was how to get from feudalism even to capitalism. And that's where you had the Marx come up with the primitive accumulation of capital that he really used to describe what we characterize as colonialism. So you have this free Europe, so to speak, that comes about as a consequence of this. But then the thing is that the notion, he challenged these utopian socialists. There are a lot of people who are characterized as utopian socialists, and many of them running for office or in office in this country today. And many of them we talk to all the time. They sort of feel like capitalism will sort of disappear if we say it enough and say socialism enough. The capitalism would disappear and everybody would be socialist. And all you got to do is just tell everybody to be socialist. You want enough people say, I'm a socialist. That's it. It doesn't work that way. You're talking about social systems. And for systems to emerge, a mode of production has to be overturned and replaced by another mode of production. So if you want socialism, then you got to get rid of what you call capitalism. How do you get rid of what you call capitalism? Not simply, by getting enough people to say I'm a socialist. It's a mode of production. It's the way life is created in a society. You get rid of capitalism by overturning capitalism. And the socialism and capitalism cannot coexist. But the thing is, how do you get, and this was a problem that they had because this notion that seems to have been suggested by Marx that after going through these processes of vertical development of human society, as he had defined it, then you would have this sort of communism as an outcome, because capitalism has outlived its place, and so communism emerges, no oppression, no exploitation, what have you. But it didn't happen that way. Even the places where they said that this communism would come, it didn't happen there. The overthrow of capitalism didn't happen in the developed Europe. In fact, if you investigate it, you will see that nowhere where capitalism was overturned was it within these highly developed industrialized capitalist societies. Nowhere. You can't point to a single place on earth where capitalism was overturned in that fashion. You saw what would be considered a success in the struggle against capitalism in Vietnam and China, Cuba, and in a how was it characterized? A semi-feudal Russia. But it didn't happen any way they talked about. So then the question is that if you are going to make this revolution to get to communism, then the working class has to have control of the state apparatus. The state, of course, being concentrated in the capacity of coercion of a particular class. And so the workers come to power, like in Russia, and then seize control of the means of production, like in Russia, and institute a dictatorship of the proletariat. And the dictatorship simply means the rule without regard for law, just like what you have here, except they said it's a hidden dictatorship under bourgeois democracy, because it wasn't hidden to us in Kenya, as we've just talked about, or in the Philippines, or in various, and in Black communities on the plantation. It was quite clear to us. But so they talk about this this dictatorship of the proletariat. The working class has to become a dictatorship in order to transform the society, to lead it to the socialism that owns and controls the means of production collectively. The working class controls that. And then you've made the socialist revolution. But socialism is sort of like purgatory. It's that place between capitalism and communism. It is not communism. is a step before communism. It is the workers having taken control, and class society still exists now. The working class has now become the ruling class. That's the socialism that Marx and Engels and Lenin, certainly Lenin, talked about. So you had a lot of people at the same time who call themselves socialists or communists, and they didn't like Lenin's formula. And they didn't unite with Lenin and the assumption that the working class would have control of society. That'd be a dictatorship of the working class. So that's where you have this whole concept of democratic socialism. That we're not like those dictatorial socialists. We are democratic socialists. And it's based on certain assumptions that socialism can come without the overthrowing of bourgeoisie, and without and Lenin quite well understood that what happens and will happen is when the capitalist class is overthrown, it becomes more vicious then than ever. It's got all the connections in the world. It's got all the knowledge, the resources, etc., even though it's overthrown now. So in terms of responding and coming back and fighting back, we've seen instances similar to that. So there has to be the dictatorship to make sure that it cannot come back. When we say dictatorship of the proletariat, it means no, you can't have a newspaper, capitalist. You cannot have a newspaper to spread ideas that will win people to reestablishing colonial domination of the peoples of the world, exploiting them, taking their resources, permeating the airwaves with perversions and stuff like that, that demean women and other peoples, etc. You can't, no newspapers, no radio. You have to go out and at best try to get some public radio. And even if you get public radio, it's going to have to, follow the rules that we establish as workers in dominating this society. And this is the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, where the liberals who call themselves socialists and what have you want everybody to have rights. We want everybody. We want the capitalists to have rights. They need to speak their voices as well, even though they're calling for lynching, and even though they're supporting killing people in the streets and bombing countries and shooting down balloons that, et cetera, that everybody has to have the right to do that. And so those are the democratic socialists. That's what democratic socialism is an invention to distinguish this, which is another iteration of the bourgeoisie. A domination of society. It doesn't require the expropriation of the expropriators. You have democratic socialism, but it doesn't mean that those who've expropriated every damn thing will be expropriated themselves, that you will expropriate the stuff they have stolen. So, that's kind of what it is. That's worse than Robin Hood, who, at least, when he stole stuff, he was, giving it to the poor, making sure that he had a permanent job. But anyway. So anyway, who was that? That was Comrade.
That was Comrade Paul.
Say it again.
Paul. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Kessler.
Who was Comrade Paul? I hope I responded a bit. Say that again. Yeah. Okay. I hope I touched on it anyway.
I mean, I definitely thought that it was extremely comprehensive and really important, in terms of how they've decided to distinguish themselves. I just also been tracking donations, seeing all this stuff come in. So I want to make sure that we're able to announce just some of the new donors that have come in before we go into our announcements and looking at taking our last couple of questions. But Chairman, we are at $1,931 of our $2,000 goal.
Oh, wow. Uhuru. Thank you, Comrade. Uhuru.
Yeah, Uhuru. I
thought you said we were trying to raise $10,000.
We're trying to raise $10,000. And the Omali Taught Me show goal is just a part of that overall 10,000. But if you
What
want
if the Omali Taught Me show wanted to do the
to do
10,000? You wouldn't
10,000,
reject it.
oh, absolutely. I mean, we say bring it on. And it's kind of like a socialist competition among shows. So, you know, if you see Omali Taught Me bringing it in, comrades and Reparations in Action and Black Power Talks, everybody, they're going to try to step it up. But I want to salute the Omali Taught Me show. Thank you, Chairman. I just want to like I said, I'm going to read off these forces who've donated since this last question took place. We had Comrade Matum in Philadelphia with $100. Uhuru Comrade Matum. We have Comrade Kenya in Jacksonville with $50. Uhuru Comrade Kenya. We have Comrade Len in St. Louis with $50. Uhuru Comrade Len. We have Comrade Allison in Philadelphia with $50, says, long live the independent voice of the African Revolution, Uhuru Comrade Ali. We have Comrade Janine in Oakland with $10, Uhuru Comrade Janine. We have Comrade Brittany in Moorhead, Minnesota with $10, Uhuru Comrade Brittany. I mean, these comrades are donating even when they might have frostbite on their fingers. It's so cold. But thank you for your donations. We have Comrade Raya in Chicago with $25, who says, Uhuru salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the historic independent African working class Black Power 96. Keep it going strong, Uhuru Raya. We have the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement with a contribution of $50. Uhuru comrade to our mass organizations, to President Masamela. Also, you can listen to the Impedum show, Black Power Talks, on Black Power 96 Radio FM. Download the Black Power 96 radio app to listen to this incredible show. We have Comrade Denzel, who restarted his sustaining membership from El Cajon, Florida. I mean, not Florida, California, Lord. With $60. So, Uhuru Comrade Denzel, thank you so much for restarting your sustaining membership with Black Power 96 Radio. We have Comrade Sangha in Portland, who pledged $50. Uhuru Comrade Sangha. We have MQ in Gainesville, Florida with $10. Uhuru Comrade MQ. We have Gregory with $26. Uhuru Comrade Gregory. And Comrade Chainaba with $25. So that leaves us with $69 left to raise. So go ahead and drop that or drop more. You've already seen the give backs that you get. $100, you get that to-do list. $300 or more, you get that phone stand. So go ahead and make your contributions, comrades. We've got about 30 minutes left to bring in these resources. Go to blackpower96.org/donate or go to Cash App, hashtag $, BlackPower96, or via mail. You can mail us a check to Black Power 96, 1245 18th Avenue South, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33705. So let's get this remaining amount in, comrades, before we end today. And like Chairman said, we can go over that goal too. This Tommy show is very popular, as you can see. So, Chairman, we're going to go ahead and just do a break for announcements. Give you some time to maybe take a sip of water. And then we're going to go back into taking the last couple of questions before we wrap up the Ask the Chairman segment. So why don't we take a look at what is upcoming in the Uhuru movement? All right. So first and foremost, join the counteroffensive to stop the FBI attacks on the African People's Socialist Party and the African liberation struggle. You can donate or volunteer to the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign today. For more information, go to handsoffuhuru.org to volunteer, donate, sign the petition, sign the emergency response pledge. Get the word out, take out flyers into your community to raise up the demand to stop the FBI attacks on the African People's Socialist Party, to build this counteroffensive. Also, we had our mass meeting yesterday, which we were able to talk with the four unindicted co-conspirators, including Chairman Omali Yeshitela himself. We also had a workshop with Colin Poirot from the National Lawyers Guild, who gave a workshop on what to do in the face of an FBI encounter when the FBI comes knocking. So you can actually view that meeting. If you missed it yesterday, you can view it on the Burning Spear TV YouTube channel. So you can also, be able to watch those presentations from the unindicted co-conspirators and also to recap on that workshop, really important workshop. So again, that's at Burning Spear TV on YouTube if you missed that meeting yesterday. and handsoffuhuru.org to volunteer, donate, and join this campaign. Later today at 3 p.m. Central Time in St. Louis, join the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement for Hands Off Uhuru, Hands on the Mic, a poetry event and fundraiser that calls for hands off the Black community. If you are on the ground in St. Louis, head over to Aquaba Hall at 4101 West Florissant Avenue, St. Louis, Missouri, to watch this event in person, or you can tune in on Facebook at facebook.com/NPDUM. That's INPDUM. And for more information, you can call 314-504-0144. On Saturday, February 18th, join the Black is Back Coalition for a special webinar on the history of the FBI's war on the Black Liberation Movement. For more information and registration, go to blackisbackcoalition.org. This is a virtual event, so again, you can tune in from wherever you are. Go to blackisbackcoalition.org. That is on Saturday, February 18th. And also later that evening, on Saturday, February 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, don't miss a special online benefit concert that is part of the Black Power 96 Radio February Fund Drive, Freedom Mic for the Love of Black Power, featuring performances and interviews with world-renowned artists, including Ariane Love of the Stylistics, as well as local going global artists voted #1 by Black Power 96 listeners. This concert will not be live streamed, so make sure to reserve your spot to view and chat with the artists in this concert by registering at blackpower96.org/I love Black Power. Kick back with a nice glass of sparkling cider and tune in to Freedom Mic for the Love of Black Power. Again, February 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern. The Uhuru Solidarity Movement is holding their national convention on Saturday to Sunday, March 11 to 12 at the Aquaba Hall in St. Louis, Missouri. The convention calls on white people to say no to the FBI's war on Black liberation. For more information and registration, visit uhurusolidarity.org. And let me just say, comrades, pack your bags and get ready to spend a month in St. Louis, because not only do we have the Uhuru Solidarity Movement convention, we have the All African People's Development and Empowerment Project, who will be hosting the Project Black Ankh International Conference on Saturday and Sunday, March 18th to 19th at Aquaba Hall in St. Louis, Missouri. The theme of the conference is Building Our Own Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Response. For more information and registration, you can visit tinyurl.com/PBA conference. And to close out this incredible month, we have the African National Women's Organization, who will hold their annual convention Friday, March 24th through Sunday, March 26th at the Aquaba Hall in St. Louis, Missouri. For more information and registration, visit convention.anwouhuru.org. So we got a jam-packed month for March. USM, APDEP, and ANWO. So Uhuru comrades, get to St. Louis. You have to get to St. Louis. And make sure you like and subscribe to the Burning Spear TV on YouTube to catch every episode of the Omali Taught Me Sunday Study. And you can support the Omali Taught Me show goal today by helping us to reach the $2,000 or exceed the $2,000 goal by going to blackpower96.org/donate. Uhuru Tours and Speakers Bureau is an institution of the African People's Socialist Party that coordinates events and tours for Chairman Omali Yeshitela and other party speakers and leaders. Book Chairman Omali and other Uhuru movement speakers for your campus or organization now. You can email us at info@uhurutours.com or call 727-914-3621. And for any event that I missed, you can go to theburningspear.com/events to check out everything we're doing in the Uhuru movement. So the last thing I want to say to close out this portion of announcements and get back to these questions is to call on all of you, not just to donate to Black Power 96, but to join the African People's Socialist Party, to join this revolutionary organization that is paving the way for the future, where, we have all these incredible institutions and organizations that are going towards the same goal for freedom and self-determination of Black people. The leadership of this world struggle is the African People's Socialist Party, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and the theory of African internationalism that has helped to explain, define the world. I mean, this is what we're witnessing today. Asking the chairman, he is able to provide this African internationalist analysis, which helps to explain the world, correct the world, and point the way forward to to totally transforming the world, to create something new, something entirely different, so we don't have to live under these oppressive, exploitive conditions any longer. So Africans can know peace and prosperity that is forged through our own hands. But that only happens as a consequence of struggle if we are prepared to fight. And the African People's Socialist Party is the vehicle for which we make this happen. So we, are calling on you. We're not just having this discussion and talking about these questions just for us to be smarter and be able to be more articulated and all of these things with it. I mean, we want to be that, but we're also, what we're doing is really winning, that this is the only way forward. This is the future, and you have to be part of it. So go to apspohuru.org, join the African People's Socialist Party, join the African Revolution, and let's create the future for Africa with our own hands. So Uhuru comrades. So we're going to return it back to our program now, taking our next set of questions, Chairman, and we are going to look at this question. Again, so many of them you've already taken on in your overview, but perhaps can just be expounded on even more. This question came from our December 4th, Omali Taught Me, this past December 4th, came from Comrade Diop. And he asked, Uhuru Chairman, what do you think about this growing concern among sectors of our movement about the rise of so-called totalitarianism and the right, etc.?
Uhuru. I think that is one of the things that I've spoken to earlier, but I wish you would make a note of that because I want to come back to it. I do think that it's really important for us to recognize something I referenced earlier on, and that is the poll that I saw just perhaps this morning indicating that perhaps the majority of people, Republicans and Democrats, would prefer Trump and Biden not to be their candidates. And part of what we're looking at, and we saw something earlier that says some 50 some odd people of the people and they call voters. I felt like the system needs to be overturned. But part of what we're looking at is that the base of the bourgeoisie, the colonial bourgeoisie, is growing smaller and smaller. It's narrowing. That if you got these majorities who don't like their candidates, and these candidates are part of the process that they have for determining who is going to represent them, it means again that the base of the colonial bourgeoisie is shrinking. It's becoming smaller and smaller. We have to be able to think and recognize that means that it's a base, it's space that can be taken. We don't just have to be tailing around, who's going to be the next best Democrat or how to suck up to the Democratic Party. The base is shrinking, and so it's to be taken. And the work that we do, when I say obviously not for the same things, but we have to open people up, get to people so that they can understand what really works in their interests, and they will not find it with the Democratic or Republican Party. And sometimes we find ourselves having to utilize the vehicle to advance, our movement. I remember when Comrades Akili and Jesse ran for office in St. Petersburg, Florida. I think on one occasion ran as a member of the Democratic Party. And it was such a serious campaign that the leadership of the Democratic Party split, with the sector abandoning the regular Democratic Party and coming over. This is part of the leadership and working in Comrade Akile's campaign. I'm saying that their base is shrinking, and it is to take that base of people and not just simply find ourselves cowering and trying to win Democrats to be good and all of this, but to take it. Part of what we are doing and have done, for example, and something that I don't think was mentioned, is even this resolution that we are taking to the St. Louis Board of Alderpersons. Our objective is to take a resolution using this institution that the Democrats and Republicans control, but is accessible to the public. And and putting forth a resolution. The courageous Comrade Jesse Todd, who is the alderman of the 18th Ward here in St. Louis, and taking it to the Public Safety Committee, which is necessary to do if we want to try to get the entire board to vote on this question. But a resolution saying a Dred Scott, a resolution, sanctuary refugee city for African people, that the city of St. Louis will not cooperate with any of the police departments, will not cooperate with any FBI or federal agents that is attacking Black people who are struggling to uplift and better the conditions of African people. This is something that's going to be discussed on their platform. In this meeting, people should come to it. It's going to be Wednesday. It goes before the Public Safety Committee, and it's going to be discussed. Take the space, and it's not likely to pass. But it exposes the limitations. It's a part of erosion of the space that they control. Take the space, go, and people who are in this meeting should come. We've asked, even Charles Barron, who's going to do the same thing in New York, will be coming on to this. He's a city council person in New York. And then there's the lawyer, Pearl, who is with the National Lawyers Guild. Will come and offer his expertise and explanation in this meeting about why the city of St. Louis should refuse to do this. This is really important. We take the space. We don't allow them to monopolize this space and control the discussion and the narrative and how people should understand the world. And the more we're able to do that, the more the base of the bourgeoisie shrinks. We should take more and more, but we give it direction and coherence, whereas right now it's all out there. For example, I was looking at something today where they were looping the story about the courageous fighter jets that shot down a slow-floating balloon. And they talked about how the question was whether or not they were going to be able to collect any of the photos that people took from the ground watching this. And they were talking to an intelligence agent who was, like they have these guys who work for them and they come on and say, tell us about this, all the secrets. And it says, yeah, that's possible, but it's possible to get it without that, because if whoever did it would put it online anyway, and we can take it offline. Then he said that this is, I forgot, was it Wyoming, Oklahoma, or someplace where it had people were taking pictures, and that they wouldn't take kindly to the FBI knocking on their door and asking them for the thing. They would really create a problem if the FBI was asking them for the video. And I thought it was really interesting, and then they because we got a sector of this white population, and they're talking about how the federal, the FBI and political police are being politicized. The FBI, the intelligence organizations have been politicized, and they're just discovering this. And what we're saying is that we could have told you a long time ago, right? And so when we engaging in this struggle, we are conscious also for whatever reasons the colonizer are disenchanted, because we disenchanted with the FBI too. You understand? And the intelligence organizations too. I'm not sure they're disenchanted with the FBI when they're attacking people who are socialists, quote unquote, but I just think that we recognize that there's a shrinking base that they have, and that we have an obligation to go for that base and not just try to remain in these little narrow circles. That's why you got to give the $10,000 that we're talking about for Black Power 96, because we're going for a much larger base. That's what people who are participating in this process must be aware of when we go on Wednesday to this meeting of the Public Affairs Committee in St. Louis. We want that base. When we do it in New York, we're going for those people. We're giving them an alternative, not just to be upset, like the people would be when the FBI comes and asks them for the footage that they took of the advanced fighters jets shooting down a balloon. So anyway, so we want to take that space. Yeah, that's what we're just opening up all these fronts. We enhancing, like the struggle and the unity of these forces who are opposed to the systems of our oppression and exploitation. So I just feel like it was, kind of important to say that. And so the question from Comrade Diop was the obsession that so many people have with what were they calling it? Authoritarian? What is it?
Totalitarianism.
I don't know. I mean, I think colonialism and totalitarian is redundant. I mean, it is the total domination by foreign and alien power. And if people who are really concerned about totalitarianism must be criticized severely if that opposition to totalitarianism does not mean that they're joining this struggle to defeat colonialism under the leadership of the advanced detachment of the African working class or any of the other peoples who are fighting against colonial domination. We say that that's the work that you do, Comrade Diop. You're fighting against totalitarianism all the time, every day, fighting against the murder of the last victim in Philadelphia, where you're located, or other places where we are located as a people. That's totalitarian. And we talk about totalitarianism, we're talking about somebody headquartered in Washington, D.C., or in Paris, who can determine how people are going to live in occupied Tanzania or South Africa, that it's going to be called South Africa. What the hell? How total can you be? That my name is Joe. How the hell? There's no place where I come from the people named Joe ordinarily, commonly. It defies all kinds of logic. It destroys any historical memory. It is an assault on historical memory that would go from generations of African people. I can't even locate myself in history anymore because I'm looking for some stranger. I'm looking for a European if I go by the names and stuff like totalitarianism. Yeah, and we should stick our finger up and say, shame, shame, shame. Who come at Diop? Yeah.
Uhuru, Chairman. Yes, the totalitarianism has been around for 600 years.
At least.
At least. Yeah, Uhuru. So, Chairman, we are winding down time, and I, of course, have to announce where we are in our goal, how much we have raised. But I do want to try to squeeze in one more question, and it came actually today from Comrade Mwezi, who said, Uhuru, Chairman, I really appreciate the way you opened up today's study, speaking about how colonial media has/will always deceive the people for its own political and economic interests. Can you talk more about the various ways that BP96 can and will continue to serve the African community in specific areas of health, climate crises, business, and cultural work?
Yeah, that's a really important question because the oppression of Africans and others is comprehensive. It doesn't just come, in one category. Whether it's comprehensive for every aspect of our life. It's part of the mode of production. That's what mode of production is. It's everything that we do to live, and our capacity to live is contained within a mode of production, and that's what we are challenging here with Black Power 96, as quiet as it's kept. And so I think that, and also I think it's really important to understand that Black Power 96 is not something that stands in the world separate from the interests of whole peoples. It's not just a radio station that's sort of there and you have some really hip people who are DJs and pundits and what have you. It's a project. It's an anti-colonial project. It's an entity that is owned by a nonprofit that has set as its mission to deal with the disparities that exist between the colonizer and the colonized. Every aspect of it. That's what this nonprofit is about. And so there's, I don't know about, environment. Look at the question of environment. Let me just say this, because we hear like liberals or white people who have been, really in many instances in terms of public outcries around environmental degradation and what have you. And it's hard to have this discussion because, we want to have friends and things like that and people who will support our struggling movement. But the reality is that the greatest threat to the environment historically has been white people. There's no way we can get around that. That's the colonizer. The colonizer. And they will never discuss it in that fashion. That, stuff, we're talking about what the corporations are doing on a mountain somewhere in North America. Well, there is a North America now because the colonizers came here, killed people, took the land, destroyed the buffalo, destroyed the means that people had to exist, polluted the rivers, just the assault on the environment. And this is because people because the colonizer likes to think of the ecology as something that's separate from human beings. You notice that people like to primitivize indigenous people who would talk about things like Mother Earth. Mother Earth is what we're looking at, not something that's separate from us. We are part of the environment. And that's how we talk about it. When you get to the colonial question, you get to the essential question, you get to colonial mode of production, you get to the fundamental questions, etc. And that's what Black Power, and Black Power 96 is an institution that opens up the ability, because there are peoples all around the world who are struggling against how the colonizers are destroying the planet, but they don't have a venue for being able to do it. They don't have the vehicle for being able to articulate that. And it becomes, whatever the intent, it is a part of the struggle against colonialism, globally, the colonial mode of production. That's what we've been fighting forever. We are the biggest defenders of the environment. The people who are fighting against colonialism are the real environmentalists, And so Black Power 96 offers people an opportunity to join this struggle to defend the environment, protect the environment. And because everything that the colonizer talks about in terms of protecting the environment is simply transferring the assault, or the front of the assault, to the colonized people ourselves. We're going to have electric this and electric that. Where are you going to get it from? How are you going to get that? It's going to mean dig more holes, create more tax on the environment in Africa, throughout South America, someplace like that. That's the solution that you come up with. It's going to be a clean environment for us. So Kamet Mwezi, that's what we're looking at. So it's a thorough understanding, a thorough recognition of the comprehensive nature of a mode of production. It doesn't just, even the way the music that you hear. The reason you can turn on whatever means of listening to music and hear, African women being defined as bees and hoes and stuff like that. It's the mode of production. It rewards and it sucks everything from. It would even suck your rhythm, suck your beats and stuff like that to degrade you. You say, wow, that's a great beat, and that's talking about killing us. That's a great beat that's talking about humiliating us. That's a wonderful step that we've created that responds to, that contributes to our ongoing oppression. It's a mode of production. And that's the war that we're involved in, and that's the struggle of Black Power 96. I was once, and it is a mode of production. And it's really important to understand this because I had a radio show once on one of these, I think they call it community funded, where people donate money to the station. And we raised more money every time than what we were supposed to get. They kicked me off that station. The white people ran that station. The show that came on immediately after mine was a Zionist show. Because there must be democracy. I mean, everybody has a right, they have a right to come in and talk about killing Palestinians and how wonderful it is to do that, and, et cetera. So we have to have a capacity to fight against colonialism. And, democratic colonialism, in 1907 in Stuttgart, I've mentioned it over and over again, this big meeting happened in Stuttgart, Germany, where all the communists, a majority of them from throughout Europe met. And, they had honest and frank discussions, passing resolutions calling for socialist colonialism. And which is kind of sort of like National Socialism of a sort, and yeah, so I just want to say that, Mwezi, and hope I didn't distort the question too much so that the response is not something that's understood. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And I want to say that some people are frightened by what happened to us on July 29th and the expectation that any day now members of our party, our movement, our organization will be indicted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation as carrying out its mission to fight against socialism and to maintain the colonial mode of production here and around the world. But the thing is that the question that we are confronted with is, can we live? Can you live in a situation that you can't say anything or you won't say anything for fear that you'll be imprisoned, that you'll be jailed or even killed? What kind of society is that? How can you tolerate saying, okay, I'm gonna live here and I'm gonna sell out because I'm concerned about my children? How can you voluntarily say that this is the example that I would set for my children? I think that it's really important for us to have the ability to make the struggle, to fight the struggle, and to recognize that the people will win. There's no doubt in my mind about that. There is no way we talk about this shrinking island that the colonial bourgeoisie resides on in a very shaky situation. You see how shaky it is that balloons scare the hell out of them that they have to use. I don't know how much it costs to shoot down that damn balloon, right? A very shaky situation that they're in, and the people will prevail. The people must have freedom. And we have voluntarily stepped forward and say that we will be the advocates for the people, and we will bring the people into this process of seizing control of life, which is what we're talking about, that's constantly being assaulted and destroyed by the nature of this system that came into being through the enslavement of African people and the colonization of the people around the world. We ain't gonna live like this, not voluntarily. We're gonna fight it, and we fight it recognizing that this is a system of assassins that they've killed and murdered and looted all around, and they lie. There's no shame in this system for them to condemn Ho Chi Minh after all the stuff they've done to the Vietnamese, for them to condemn Fidel Castro and revolutionaries around the world for all the stuff they've done to them. We're gonna fight their asses. We will win. We will win. We are winning.
Uhuru, Chairman, we are winning. And to bring it home, I just want to say we succeeded in raising our $2,000 goal. We actually exceeded our $2,000 goal with $2,422 raised in today's show. Uhuru, and we couldn't have done it without you and comrades in Yindu and Fort Myers with $25. King, who also donated $69.
Who was that?
King in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And we also have Comrade Parrish in San Diego with $25. Comrade Farrell in Greenville, South Carolina with $10, who says, "Uhuru to all the comrades who've honorably chose to dedicate themselves to this struggle for a future for our people. And salute to Chairman Omali Yeshitela for your relentless leadership in pursuit of our liberation and redemption. We're blessed to have a leader like you still among us, Uhuru." We also have Comrade Chiwaniso with $10, says, "Forward to freedom." And I have to acknowledge a $200 contribution that has come in through at the African People's Education and Defense Fund with this note from its president, Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela, says, "Uhuru Director Akile, Black Power 96 is APEDF's sister organization. APEDF's mission leads with defend the human and civil rights of the African community, and Black Power 96 has done this in so many ways. I can't believe it's only been 5 years, and through this powerful radio station and its tagline, not just explaining the world, but changing it. We've reached audiences all over the world that are especially interested in supporting independent African-owned endeavors, at the same time supporting the sustainability of independent African-owned and controlled media that tells our stories and brings us together, uncensored by white corporate or government media owners. We, from the African People's Education and Defense Fund that was created by our chairman, Omali Yeshitela, want to donate $200 to this important fund drive to keep this radio station on air." So, Uhuru, salute to APEDF. Thank you so much, Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela, who also donated personally $100 and says this donation is in memory of our son, Octavius Clark, who just turned 46 in January. We miss you and love you forever. Long live comrade, brother Octavius Clark. Uhuru, thank you so much, Deputy Chair, for that contribution. And Comrade Ann in Ecuador also gave $25. So that brought us to $2,395 today for the Omali Taught Me Show team. Really, really want to salute and appreciate everyone who participated, who contributed, donated, and just to say again that this radio station is your radio station. Like Chairman said, you determine if it's going to be on air or not, and the people have spoken. They want Black Power 96 radio. So Uhuru, comrades, this is wrapping up our incredible Ask session with the chairman. I want to thank all of you for your contributions to this study with your important questions. Keep asking, we'll keep logging, and stay tuned for another Ask the Chairman study. And again, thank you to the Omali Taught Me Show team, all of the forces, our chat monitors, our engineers, everybody pulling this whole process together. Thank you all so much. And make sure to follow the chairman on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Subscribe to the Burning Spear TV for every episode of the Omali Taught Me Sunday Study. And listen to Chairman Omali Yeshitela on Black Power 96 Radio FM in St. Petersburg, Florida, and accessible via our Black Power 96 mobile app. And continue to donate with us from now until February 18th for our February member fund drive. Thank you so much, Chairman. Was there anything else you wanted to say before we close?
Uhuru, comrades. Vanguard up.
Relentless.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.